Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal studios. You're watching and listening on youtube.com and facebook.com, both / Wake Up Call DT worldwide. You're also listening on facebook.com and watching on facebook.com / live now DT. And of course, on internet streaming radio worldwide on mixlr.com / Wake Up Call DT and on the homepage, wakeupcalldt.com. I am ecstatic to have my guest here inside of the Cafe Kubal studios. She is no stranger to the broadcast. We have spent many a time together, and that is Miss Katie Kolinski, your Lafayette Leopards women's basketball assistant coach inside of the Patriot League in Division I women's basketball. So with that being said, Miss Kolinski, how are you?
You always give me the best introduction, and it's like never worthy of that great, but I appreciate the introduction every time. And we're doing well. It's off season time, but it doesn't feel like off season because there's always work to be done. So, we're plugging along each day.
Well, I agree with most things that you say, but I disagree that you don't deserve the introduction. If I gave a proper introduction, it would have taken longer. It would have had more accolades, but fantastic friend before great coach, great person, and an awesome mom. And I got to tell you, like, seeing your little one out there doing her thing, and I mean, she definitely looks like personality in a bottle. So I'm sure you have fun with her.
Yeah, no, it's such a process being a mom, learning each day, and she's literally a bundle of joy. She's happy every day, and her happiness just brings me happiness. It's funny though, like when our season ended, you don't really realize how hard it is what you're doing. Obviously being a single mom, coaching, not really having much family out here until like it was over, and I just kind of like exhaled a little bit. I was like, sheesh, that was a long year. It was a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of work to get done in the basketball season, and taking care of a child, another human being. It definitely, like, I took a minute, like, whew, we did make it though. We made it through the season, so I'm very grateful for that.
What is it like juggling? I know you and I talked about it when it initially started, but I'm sure that you grow and you learn, and there's things that you've learned over time of balancing being a mom and an assistant coach. I mean, obviously you're recruiting, you're game planning, you're scheming, you're getting things ready, you're going through practice, you're going through game preparation, the game itself, and at the same time you're being a mom, and then on top of that you got to make sure you take care of yourself. So how have you balanced all of it?
Yeah, I probably don't take care of myself as much as I need to, sleep wise and eating healthy, because my focus during the day is pretty much her. So, each, like, we have an academic day, so we only can practice from 4 to 6 or 6 to 8. Daycare is only open till 5:30. So, practice time. So in my mind, I'm like, each week I got to figure out, like, okay, who can watch her during practice? Like, who can I text? Who can I pay for a babysitter? Then we have games. So I'm like, all right, who can watch her during our game? If it's a home game. All right, it's a road game. Again, I'm by myself out here. All right, who's going to watch her for the road game? Do I take her with me? Does my family come out? There's so many variables that can go into that. So my thought process all day. And then I'm like, all right, I drop her off at daycare. I might not get home till 8 o'clock at night or 8:30 from the whole workday. She's at practice. Like, what am I going to feed her for dinner? I don't have all this time to make dinner. So like literally my days are just spent on, like, all right, like, how am I going to feed her? What am I going to feed her next? Like, who's going to watch her today? What do I got to do to figure it out? And then on top of that, I got to think about, scouting reports, team travel, itineraries, meals for our team. So, it's just a lot. But if you can time manage, and you just keep going, like, you just have no option. She's my motivation. I think every day I wake up, I'm like, I'm not going to give up, because
Yeah.
she's watching me. So that's kind of my motivation, but it's hard at the same time. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. It's definitely very, very, very hard. Sometimes everyone's like, well, you make it look so easy. I'm like, I got no choice. Again, she counts on me. She counts on me to have dinner. She counts on me to have breakfast. I got to bring her to daycare every day. I got to pick her up every day. So a lot of that just falls on me. And at the same time, though, I would never trade this, job for the world. I'd never trade being a mom. And it's just lessons learned. And I feel like since having my child and doing what I'm doing, I feel like I can do anything. I'm like, there's nothing that can be thrown my way that I feel like I can't do. So I'm just grateful, for it all, the ups, the downs, the bad days, the hard days. It's all worth it. So
Well, and that's the thing is like to put on top of all that and respect that. I mean, you're a single parent. So, like that in and of itself, anybody who's been in the world of coaching, I mean, I have Lily, my dog, and she's my daughter, she's my kid. And I running around am like, I wasn't home. I got to do this. I don't want to leave her in the kennel. Oh my gosh, she's been home. So, like, you know what I mean? So it's like, I think about it from the level of like my dog and then times it by a million with, having your kid there and everything. It's caring about another life, right? It's putting somebody before yourself, be it, taking care of your child or an animal, or, when I live with my grandmother and taking care of her in her 90s, like someone who literally relies on you to be fed, to have what they need. And it's an incredibly I don't want to take away from anybody, whatever their situation is, but you do it as a single parent, and you're so you're so real about it. You'd say right off the bat from when we started talking about it, you said, listen, Dan, it's hard. It's not easy. It's stressful. It's hard to make it all work and find daycare and whatnot. But here we are all this time down the road, and you're here, she's here, you guys are doing it. And I think it's going to make you I think you're going to end up being your own inspiration because of what you've done. And I feel like when you look back on these years as she grows up, I feel like you're going to be like, I know I could do anything because, well, like you said, because I'm doing this, I can do anything. And I think as hard as it is right now, you're shaping up to be probably the strongest person in your life.
no, for sure. I think, like I said, I kind of went back on the season and, I don't know how people know this either. Like I tore my meniscus during the season. So now not only am I taking care of a child by myself, but I'm on crutches. And, how do you carry your kid to the car and you're not allowed to drive? So how do you drop her to daycare? How do I get to my appointment? Then I have surgery, and how am I going to take care of my kid? And, I'm still coaching basketball this year. And it was a lot. And I had to navigate every day, like finding who's going to bring her to daycare, who's going to bring me to the doctor. And I luckily had a really good support system here from my coaching staff to, people in the community to, we have an athletic trainer, Matt Bailey, who he had his daughters go to school at Lafayette, and he told his daughters, like, anything Katie needs, like, please help her. So they were bringing me to appointments. Like, it was just stuff like that that really carries me through. I had family come up here on weekends, my brother, my dad, my mom, other family members. Like, it just takes a village, and even though I'm out here by myself for most of the time, but when I need people, like, they show up. And I think that's the biggest thing I've learned is like, I can't totally do it on my own. Even though I want to be superwoman all the time, I definitely still need some help. And it's just lessons learned. And, it's just each day, all I keep telling myself, like, I just got to get through tomorrow. How can I get through tomorrow? How can I make sure my daughter's good just tomorrow? And then, it makes it a little easier for sure.
Well, it's awesome to see the fight, and it's awesome to see everything that you have done. I love your tenacity. I love, the thing is, and I'm strong in my faith, a firm believer in God. You will get this back tenfold. Everything that you do for your daughter, it will come back. And I'm excited, to see those moments where, I mean, it just reminds me of like the pursuit of happiness, right? And just that moment where you get to kind of lift your hands up in the sky and kind of have those tears of joy to say, it was worth it. And I worked hard for this because, you're living your dreams and you're helping to set up your daughter to do that herself. And, it's incredible, Katie. And so, I mean, I know, like you said, I just want to get to the next day, but I would challenge you to say before you get to the next day, to say thank you for the day that you got, because
Sure.
you inspire so many of us. And I feel like you don't always know that, like your effect on us is so tremendous. I mean, I remember the first day that we actually talked. Like I remember being in the middle of nowhere in Omaha, Nebraska. And I remember, I'd found out that you were leaving, and I was like, we had walked by each other so many times, and I wanted to say hello. And it's like, Dan, and something told me, like, don't leave the moment. Like, don't let this person walk out of Syracuse and not get to know her. And you were walking across, and I was like going to the locker room, And I said, hey, what's up to you? And, we talked and here we are. If you don't have moments like that, we're not talking all these years later. And, you've been nothing but an inspiration for me and, your family, your dad, what he, has tried to do and his campaign that he had within the last couple of years. Like, there's a lot of fantastic things with the Kolinski family. I think you should be happy.
No, I appreciate that for sure. And it's just funny, how things come together. And that's why I really do believe in God and, things are supposed to happen the way they're supposed to happen. And, obviously Omaha, Nebraska, Coach K, that was my last game at Syracuse. They beat us and I got to shake his hand after the game and, memories like that. And, the Syracuse community as a whole, from all the writers to you, Dan, to, people that cover Syracuse basketball, like you guys were so amazing towards me and telling my story. I think that's really big is, obviously as I go through it, but there was always people that was willing to tell, what I was going through or tell my story or, being the first female grad assistant with the team or, whatever the case may be, from Mike, Donna, and then like they were always, really good to me. And, from the whole community, like Syracuse basketball fans still tweet at me. Syracuse basketball fans are still, reaching out to me, and like that means a lot to me. Just from, it's where I'm from, like Syracuse is in my DNA. Like I have Syracuse tattooed on me. I go back to Syracuse a lot of weekends in the off season, because my whole family's there. So like Syracuse just means like everything to me. And I went to a Syracuse lacrosse game this last weekend for Kayla Trainer, and I went to the Dome for the, spring game. Like I'm like a Syracuse fan like anyone else now. I watch the games and I support them. So, I'm definitely grateful for everything that you have done for me, Dan, and the whole, honestly, Syracuse community. So,
Well, obviously happy to, happy to help anybody, but when you help good people and you see good people succeed like that, that's a game changer. I'm not going to fault you that you're a Lakers fan because we know that's a problem. But I'm very, and I'll tell people here, and we always do a lot of phone calls and stuff. But picture in picture here to let everybody know, there was only one person that I watched my team 24 years in the making, Toronto Raptors win a national championship with, the first ever NBA championship that they've ever had. There's only one person I did that with, and that is Miss Katie Kolinski. And we stayed all the way through to try and hear Kawhi speak. So, like you said, memories and the things that are important from that first time of talking to each other in the hallway for real. And then, 2019 to watch the Raptors win a championship. And really after that, like the world stopped. So you and I got to do something that we thought was going to be like a normal thing every year. And then after that, we've been going through the pandemic and all that. So I can honestly tell you that I need my good luck charm. So like the Raptors back in the playoffs, I'm going to need you to kind of like sneak back into Cuse for a little bit and maybe watch a couple of these games with me. Cause I got to make sure my team that's finally home, because they were the only displaced team last year, which is ridiculous, to see what they could do and knowing that that the playoffs are coming back north, which is a good thing.
Yeah, no, Dan, I come up there a lot. I come up on the weekends, for my daughter to see her family, and I'm always up there. So I'm always down to catch a game for sure. Be around good people.
And I agree wholeheartedly. And Katie, you mentioned Syracuse, and obviously born and raised in Central New York native, and how much you love Syracuse, and obviously the connection to West Jenny. And I do a lot of work with West Jenny at the Wildcat, and knowing your history with them. And so from West Jenny to Cuse to the history you made on the men's basketball team, you've obviously gotten to know Buddy and Jimmy and the Boeheim family. What did, albeit the fact that it was from a few hours away, and you're in your season at Lafayette doing your thing, what was it like to see the three-headed Boeheim on the Syracuse team, and to see Buddy ball out for the years he's been here, and then see Jimmy ball out too, but not in a red jersey, in an orange jersey? What was that like for you?
Honestly, it was just amazing to see because I worked with Syracuse basketball for 7 years, and my first year with them was 2011, 2012, I believe, which would have been 10 years ago. So if you do the math, Buddy was 8, my first year with the team. So I literally watched Buddy from when he was 8 years old, if I'm doing the math correctly, I might not be because it's, early in the morning, but from from 8 years old on to playing for Syracuse men's basketball, like I would have never guessed it. But the one thing I will say about Buddy is I don't think he was a Division I basketball player. He made himself into one.
Yeah.
Like literally, I mean, obviously he has the size and everything, and he can shoot the heck out of the ball, but he put so much work into the weight room. Like if he didn't have his work ethic into the weight room and everything else, he wouldn't have been a Division I basketball player. I really believe that. Like that's most people though, but he has such a drive and work ethic that I've never seen before, where like it would be Christmas and he's like, yo, I'm going into the gym today. I need to get a weight room workout in. And like even the work he did with Ryan Cabiles, the strength coach, is unbelievable. Like I don't think Ryan Cabiles gets enough credit. That guy is unbelievable in his development of those guys in the weight room and their strength training. Like he's definitely like a hidden gem of Syracuse basketball. I will say that. And then just to see Jimmy be able to play and Boeheim coach his sons, and like I know someone said Boeheim made a comment like, wins or losses or whatever this year, but I got to coach my sons. And you know what? Being a mom, like that's amazing. And when people are like, well, Boeheim wants to win more than anybody I know. I've never seen someone with such a will to win games. But just for him to say that, like, that just shows like what it meant for Coach Boeheim. And, for me, I'm a huge fan of Coach Boeheim. I know I say this all the time. Even to this day, like I texted Julie Boeheim a couple days ago, asking her a couple questions about some things, and she responds and she helps me and she looks out for me. And they're just great people. I could call Coach Boeheim right now, and if I needed a favor or needed something, like he's gonna find a way to help me. So just their family as a whole and watching them play and Buddy play, I think was really remarkable. And even like GMAC in his development and Eric Devendorf in his development. And then Jimmy, he's been working with Red for years. So I think just seeing Jimmy, the development he did, and the work he put in with Red, and you could just see it all come together, and I really thought was incredible.
Well, and you actually, the thing that you addressed, that the Jim Boeheim said, that was the answer to my question at the ACC tournament when I asked him about just what he can say, what his sons would say, and what he can say about them. And that's when he said, well, they still have my credit card, so they're going to say nice things about me. And then he went on to say, this has been his favorite season. And I put that up, and people like ripped on him about it. And they're like, really, Jim? Like, you didn't have a winning season. Like, what about 2003? And I was like, y'all don't understand. Like, you win a national championship, you're coaching your kids in Division I basketball in the ACC, both of them together. Like, who in their right mind would say that that's not the greatest achievement of the family as a whole? Like, people don't really get that. It's not about wins and losses. Like, you want to win. Buddy wanted to win more than anything. Jimmy, it killed him that they didn't win that game against Duke in the ACC tournament so Buddy could come back. Like, they took that upon themselves. It was personal, and Jim felt that. But from getting to know Jim for the last, decade, and getting to know Jimmy over the past year, and knowing Buddy for like at least 6 years now, or whatever it is at this point, to build the relationships that I have with them, like, greatest thing in the world to hear that. And I would hope that my dad would say that. You know what I mean? So like, I don't understand how fans don't get like, yes, this is more important than 2003, because how many people get to coach their kids? 0.00000000001% of Division I coaches. I mean, this is unheard of by. And listen, it may never happen again. It may happen once or twice. Like, that's how fleeting it is.
Yeah, no, 100%. People always want to have something to talk about and make a negative out about everything. And it's like, man, just enjoy the greatness while you can. Like Boeheim's not going to be around forever. You just enjoy it. Like, he's still recruiting. He's still Boeheim. He's still managing the team. And I guarantee even when they went on like losing streaks this season or whatever the case may be, he's coaching the same every day. Like, he's not looking at the record like everyone else is. He's just focused on the next minute, the next play, because that mentality that he does have actually propelled us through a lot of seasons when I was there. From when we lost like 6 games a year. I think we went to the Final Four with MCW. The year we went to the Sweet 16, my last year, when we were on the bubble and we were losing some games. Like, his mentality and what he does is what makes him him. And if Coach Boeheim wasn't who he was, we wouldn't have went to the tournament some of those years, or we would have given up during the year, or we wouldn't have been playing the way we were playing, because he just literally comes in with a mindset like, all right, next play mentality. I don't care if we're 0-10. And I think people need to, appreciate that about Boeheim more. And I think people need to have more of appreciation for Coach Boeheim, because he's not going to be here forever, So enjoy him while you can, because, it's not always greener on the other side.
Well, and that's the thing, like the grass isn't greener on the other side. It's green when you're where you water it.
Exactly.
And he's been watering the grass as a head coach for 46 years, and I tell people, I said, listen, do I agree with every single thing that Jim Boeheim does? No. But do I agree with every single thing that my mom does or my best friend does? No. Like, I don't agree with every single play, every single moment of every single game, but I'm a student of the game. I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to understand where he comes from. I respect him. 45 out of 46 years, he's had a winning season. He's brought them to the Final Four. And what was it? 5 different decades. Like, this man deserves the respect. And like you said, when he's gone, people are going to lose their minds. People still miss Paul Pasqualoni from Syracuse football, and that was 2001.
Yep.
21 years ago. So, like, you know what I mean? It's the reality of, like, Coach K not at Duke. That, is a giant task to try to have to fill. It's with anything. It's Jim Boeheim at Syracuse. It's Bill Belichick with the Patriots. I'm sure it was Tom Landry with the Cowboys. It's just reality. It's Joe Torre with the Yankees. When those moments end, you never forget that. Like, if you tell me, like, what were the glory days of the Yankees that I grew up with, I'm always going to talk about Joe Torre. So it's part of reality. Is it's so easy to complain, but when you're used to 25 wins a season and Sweet 16 as a fan, like, you're very spoiled, because it is so difficult to get in the tournament. And I thought it was great when I talked to Bob Holliday of WRAL Sports Fans, a good friend of mine in the media, and it's slim to none that you find any friends in the media. And Bob, just one of those guys that him and I were talking about it, and we were talking about the ACC, and I said, they said this year, soft, weak, not good enough, down year, can't compete with other conferences. I never said any of those things. The reality was the ACC top to bottom was so good that they were beating the heck out of each other. And he said it. He goes, what this season has shown you is that Syracuse and Wake Forest should have made the NCAA tournament, because regardless of record, they would have beaten somebody.
I was watching the tournament, like, with my dad, and I'm like, Syracuse would have beat these teams. Like, some of the teams couldn't even score 40 points in the games. I'm like, this is some bad basketball. I'm like, you couldn't tell me Syracuse basketball wasn't good enough to be in this tournament. And, obviously they didn't have enough wins, but if Jesse Edwards doesn't go down, I think they get enough wins towards the end. I do.
Yeah, and I'm excited about seeing what's to come for sure. I'm struggling with the Buddy thing. I got a special coming up with Buddy, and him and I have a friendship above everything else that started, I don't even know, like a year and a half before he came to Syracuse. And it's so, like, I said to him, I go, Syracuse basketball alum. And I go, dude, and he laughed, and I'm like, bro, I can't like function with that right now. But, because it went so fast. But, I'm so grateful for him. One of the top 20 scorers of all time in Syracuse basketball history. He's incredible, and he has proven so many people wrong. And Jimmy's best game of his collegiate career was the game against Duke that Buddy wasn't in. It was the last game of the season. And I think it was 28 points, hitting threes. Just, you could tell he was trying to everybody was trying to will them above Duke, above a team that made it to the Final Four. This is the same team that brought North Carolina in Chapel Hill to overtime, and Caleb Love had to hit a big time shot, just like he had to do against Baylor, just like he had to do in other games in the tournament. People forget 50% of this year's Final Four out of 358 Division I men's basketball teams, those two teams had to go to the brink of losing again to Syracuse to try and stretch that out and figure that out. So this Syracuse team that people aren't really proud of pushed half of the Final Four to the brink of losing.
No, for sure. And I think the future is bright with the young guys that they have coming in. And, I think Syracuse fans just got to hang tight. It's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Just take a deep breath. Good things take time. And, it's not always going to be pretty, but you got to trust the system, trust Coach Boeheim, and the guy knows what he's doing. That's all I'll say.
Katie Kolinski here with us on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Cabal Studios. Made history spending 7 years on the Syracuse staff as the first grad assistant there that's ever, for a woman to be on staff in that role, and for that longevity as well. An incredible feat and a beautiful thing. And I want to thank Coach Boeheim and the whole staff for giving Katie a chance, because, it's not about just making history. It's about the quality of the person that you hire, regardless of background, nationality, gender, whatever it may be. And Katie obviously has more than proven herself, and that she's worth it here with the Lafayette Leopards now in Division I women's basketball as an assistant coach. I want to shift to the women's side of things. We've seen an evolution, and albeit, here's the men's game and here's the women's game, just like the men are doing this and the women are kind of very, very slow. And not because the women aren't good, but because the respect wasn't there and the equality wasn't there. 68 teams for the first time ever in the women's basketball tournament. They have playing games like the men have playing games. They now have the same amount of teams. What do you think about the evolution of the NCAA tournament for Division I women's basketball? And what was it like for you to finally see that the men and the women had the same amount of teams? Part one of the question. Part two, that Selection Sunday was for both.
Yeah, I think when you start to, put money into the women's game, you're going to start to see people respect it. And I think you're going to see that people do like the women's game. It's just they got to have, what's it called? It needs to be shown more, and putting the games on ESPN and putting the main games on ESPN. And I'm so tired of the women's game. It used to be on like ESPN 360 or whatever. It needs to be on the main channels. And once you get the games on the main channels, people are going to be able to find the games and be able to tune into the games. And I also think that a lot of the women's players are so marketable, from Paige Beckers, Aaliyah Boston, Caitlin Clark, even Emily Engstler, at Louisville. Like these players, like they all have stories, and people want to hear their stories. And giving them a platform to do this and giving them the resources that they deserve, and putting it on Selection Sunday and giving them 68 teams, it should have always been like that. And it was really on the NCAA to make it even, and viewership's up. I wonder why, because it's out there more. The girls are out there more. It's on the main channels more. So I said during COVID, what's it called? Diana Taurasi and Sue Bird did like a Instagram live talk during COVID. It was like the greatest thing ever. I loved every minute of it. And I'm like, if they would do more things like this and get their voices out there more, like people want to hear what Diana Taurasi says. Yeah. People want to hear what Sue Bird says. People want to hear what Breanna Stewart has to say. People want to know what Maya Moore has to say. And I think, giving women a platform to be able to tell their stories and go out even on like Instagram Live and things like that. And like I said, all the women's players in college basketball all have stories, and they need to be told and they need to be shown. And people are going to follow. How many young girls are in the world? Young girls need to see women that look like them be able to show that they can be anything they want to be and be on a platform like that and be successful. And this is what I had to say, when the people are on, Twitter and stuff saying bad things about women or women's basketball is not real. It's like, if you have a daughter and you're saying that, go check yourself, please. Like, I really wanted to say, go check yourself, because your young girl is hearing you. She's seeing your actions. Instead of tweeting, you need to be bringing her to the nearest basketball game so she has someone to look up to. And that's how things change. Like, any father in this world needs to be taking their daughters to games. Support women. Let them see what it looks like. And I'm very passionate about this, because I really do think women are disrespected often. And I think it needs to stop. I think it's time to, like I said, the NCAA put the time and effort into it, and look at the result. Look at how many fans were at that national championship game.
Yeah.
There's money to be made. I saw on Twitter the other day too, like the most Twitter followers gained through the NCAA tournament player wise. A lot of the top followers were women's basketball who had the increase in followers. So there's a platform to be made. There's money to be made. And, like I said, I think we're going to see more of this, but, Paige Beckers and all them, like it's fun watching them and they have the personalities. And I think just making them out there more so people can see it and fall in love with them just as much. I think things will keep changing a little bit more.
Well, and that's the thing, it's like when you don't put the money in the tournament and you don't put I mean, remember, it wasn't too long ago that you didn't see any of the women's basketball tournament, NCAA Division I tournament games until you got to the end. It's like, oh, okay, we're going to watch the national championship with UConn. Like you didn't get to see the round of like
any of them
or round of 32, Sweet 16, like nothing. There was nothing. There was no, and I can't even believe, like looking back on that, and as a man, and I can imagine as a woman, Katie, that we grew up at a time where the women's tournament, we would hear that it was coming. We would know that it exists. We would hear nothing once it began, and then we would get to see the end. I remember looking in the newspaper trying to find the bracket for the women. Like I was sitting there going like, why do I have to fight so hard to find this? Yeah. I mean, how weird is it for you to think back on the fact that only within the last few years here have we actually seen every round of the women's tournament, which to me is appalling that we don't even get to see the road to the championship when you and I were growing up.
Well, it's a clear message from the NCAA and ESPN and partners that women and their games just aren't important. And that's the message that's getting put out there, and when that's the message that's getting put out there, it's not by what people say, it's by actions, right? Mm-hmm. So the actions were showing that. I don't have to ask the NCAA, I don't have to talk to ESPN. It was shown. And I think, finally people are speaking up. I think it was Sedona Prince from Oregon who made light of, their weight room at the, in the bubble and things like that. And, we're finally seeing equality. It's always been talked about equality, but it hasn't been backed up. And I think the more equality you're getting shown, I think the more you're seeing that people are going to support it. And I really do think it's great. And, I'm hoping we continue this trend, and I'm hoping we're going farther away from men who have bad things to say about women who play sports, because I'm like, just keep your opinions to yourself. You don't have to say anything, because we're equally as important over here.
Well, and I posted something about, Felisha Legette-Jack and the fact that I, in it well in advance, I was like, I think she's going to get the job at Syracuse. And somebody had posted, and I immediately banned them out of the group. Somebody had posted, why is the media still continuing? Like it was a shot at me. It was a shot at the media. It was a shot at women more than anything else. And I'm paraphrasing, but they said, why is the media trying to shove women's sports down our throats? We all know that they're not as good as men. We all know their sports aren't important. So why are you trying? Like they were mad at me for posting about Felisha because women's sports don't matter. And they wanted me and all of the media to stop trying to talk to them about women because women don't matter. And that was a message sent a few weeks ago in the year 2022. And well, I was like, wow.
Well, the funny part about that is too, one thing they're going to learn about Coach Jack real quick is she's really, really, really big on her player stories being told, her story being told, her staff story being told, and she's coming. And, I really hope Syracuse fans and the community and media really go along for the ride, because it's really incredible how she brings it all together and the energy she's going to bring to Syracuse basketball. And she's going to make sure her player stories are told. And deservingly so. Women's basketball is important. It's important in the community. It's important for that little girl who lives across from the Dome to know, that she's important. She's going to be important one day. And when I tell you Coach Jack is going to be the one to put those stories out there, she's coming. And it's going to be really incredible to see. I think people are going to see Coach Jack in the community. I think they're going to see Coach Jack speaking about things that are important. And I think she's really going to make a connection between the community and women's basketball at Syracuse. And I think it's amazing that she's back at Syracuse, just as her alma mater, being the one of the best players to go through there. And she's going to make sure she's heard. So buckle up, because it's going to be really awesome to see their stories being told.
Yeah, and the thing is like you said, and going back to what you said about stories needing to be told, whatever. People grew up, right? And you said you don't need to talk to the powers that be, because it was clear. It was clear by ESPN, it was clear by any of the CBS and any of these places, it was clear by the NCAA that it was like, men's tournament, watch every game. Women's tournament, watch the end. Division II and Division III, nobody cares. Like, that was what was pushed to us. And I know people in the D1, D2, D3 JUCO level, and I know people on the men's side, know people on the women's side. So to me, everybody matters, and they always have. But now, even more so, I can tell you that I love telling these stories. I tell the stories of Marywood University D3. I tell the stories of OCC JUCO. I tell the stories of Oswego State D3. I tell the stories of Lemoyne D2. And so I know these worlds, and I tell the stories of the Albany's D1 on the women's side, and Binghamton D1 on the women's side, and speaking with you, Katie, about Lafayette D1 on the women's side. So, I have a dog in every race. And to me, you should care. I mean, I watched the women's championship before the men's championship, and I was sitting here going, like, why do people not watch? Like, I tell people, the basketball is basketball. Like, dude, like, it's not like the game. It's not like when women play basketball, totally different rules, and there's a different this and there's a different that, and 3-point doesn't exist, and you can't do a layup. Like, basketball is basketball, and when somebody can ball, it's respect. And I grew up in the game. I played organized since I was 7. It's one of the places that is my peace. I love a court, a ball, and silence. So when I watch the game, I watch the game, and I love the game. And I got to do something, and I never knew this about my mom. I brought my mom out to Lemoyne. Mary Grimes, big fan, came from Xavier, and she was an assistant coach at Lemoyne with Gina Castelli when they won their first ever NE10 conference tournament. And then she came back, and this is just her first season as the head coach, and she brought him to the NCAA tournament as an at-large bid. My mom and I were sitting in Ted Grant Court watching the game, and we were right like caddy corner to the bench. And my mom said in the middle of the game, she goes, she's like, this is the first women's game I've ever been to. I was like, for real? And she was like, yeah, like, I've never been to a women's game. And she told Mary after, and Mary's like, well, I hope that I'm happy we won. I'm happy you got to see that. But, my mom's a woman, and when she was growing up, there was no writing, there was no information, there was no anything, for her. And so to bring her out to that game, and she was surprised. She's like, wow, like, this is good. Like, cause that's the thing again, like, this perception that it's different. And my mom loved it. She got heated. She got involved. She got, like, she was, commenting on plays. I mean, I love the fact that she finally got to go. But how many people have never been to a game, is my question. And, why are we in it? Like, ball is ball. And I'm telling you, like, I've seen women's basketball teams at colleges and universities that blow the men's team out of the water. And I started my career at Marywood University with MU courtside. And they said, we're going to do the men's games. And I said, well, what about the women's games? Well, nobody watches those. I was like, well, I want to do both. I said, I want to make people watch them. I want to make them listen to them. I don't care if they tune in 10 minutes before the men's game because they want to be ready and they catch it, but I'm going to do both. And so, I mean, I've always lived in the world of, if there's a double header, why do I come here and broadcast the game at 8, but not the game at 6? That's disrespectful to the women's team.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think there just needs to be more people like you, Dan, that are advocating for it. And I think, more people have to go out and see games so they can see, women play. And you got women dunking now, and the execution, the late game execution, and some of the close games in the NCAA tournament, and just things like that. It's just really fun to watch. And I think we're getting there slowly but surely, but we're still a far way away. And I think it goes back to what you said about your mom. Like, you just gotta, well, not that's why your mom didn't go to a game, but you just gotta go and see for yourself, and see what you like and don't like, and don't judge something until you go. And if you go and you don't like it, then cool.
Yeah.
But you don't gotta talk bad about it either.
Yeah.
So
I tell
that's
people
kind of where I'm at.
I go and see, like, I went and saw the Batman and I went and saw Morbius. Wasn't a big fan of Morbius, but constructively, I was like, this is what I saw. This is what I hoped for. But I didn't go on and tweet at Jared Leto. I didn't go attack all the people on the show. I didn't come out and say, I didn't go on Rotten Tomatoes and give it 0 stars. I didn't write a long dissertation about why they suck at what they do. It's like, hey, you know what? There's movies I liked more than it. And I probably liked Morbius more than I've liked other movies. But this is the way I look at life. Nobody's trying to fail at making a movie. Nobody's trying to fail at coaching. Nobody's trying to fail. Nobody's trying to lose a game. So please have respect. Somebody's got to win and somebody's got to lose. And if you don't like it, that's fine. There's cereals I don't like. So I buy Lucky Charms and I move about my life. And if you don't like that I'm a grown man that eats Lucky Charms, I don't care. I got a king size box in my house, and that's how it's always going to be. So, like, I want to get to Dawn Staley because seriously, this woman is so inspirational. And I love the fact that, like, after the game, they just carried it through. I felt like it was on for like 2 hours after. I know it wasn't that long, but it felt like that. And she was just sitting there speaking her mind. And it's funny because it was like she called out ESPN. She called out the people that, like, didn't do right by the women's game. And she's like, see what you do when you put money into it and whatnot. And nobody on the panel knew what to say. And they were women. I'm like, listen, y'all, it's worth losing your job, right? It's worth, like, stand up for it. Dawn Staley is sitting here telling you, like, this is the first time y'all cared. And look at what happened. Like, you put the money into the men's game, you put the promotion into it, you tell people to watch, and they did. You put the money into the women's game, you promoted it, you told people to watch it, and they did. And when Dawn Staley was staying there, she didn't pull any punches. She said, I respect ESPN. I respect what y'all done, but, like, where have y'all been? And she did, and she had every right to say that.
Yeah. And I really respect Dawn because she, brought South Carolina from scratch, and, she built that program. And there's so much more, before, like, growing up, it was like UConn. But now it's like you got South Carolina, you got UConn, you got Oregon, you got Louisville, you got NC State, you got Iowa, you got Maryland. So it's like it's just a lot more. It's a lot more even, I would say, in women's basketball now, where top recruits are making their own path, and UConn's not just getting all the top cats anymore. They're still getting a lot of them, top 100 kids, but South Carolina's getting a lot of them. Oregon's getting a lot of them. Stanford. So I think it's just really cool to just see different teams, at the top now. You had a lot of mid-majors, the Princetons, the South Dakotas, just seeing them go far in the tournament was really, really cool. Creighton. So it's fun to watch upsets. It's fun to watch teams be successful. It's cool to see mid-majors get some love. And I just thought the women's tournament was so fun to watch this year. A lot of close games, a lot of good games, the Final Four matchup. So, I think everything's going in the right direction. And I just think it's cool to see, people build things from scratch.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask you about that. When we've seen, like, obviously the weight room discrepancy and the promotion discrepancy and not having the games on the air and not having all the rounds and not having as many teams, we in selection Monday instead of selection Sunday, we've seen changes that have happened. And it's funny, like, nothing happens for decades and then, like, everything happens in 2 years.
Of course.
Where do you feel like the women's game is at right now?
I think it's, like I said, I still think there's a long way to go, but I think there's fans, and I think, like I just said, it's just fun to watch, and, like, they're investing in it, and, Paige Beckers and them are getting NIL deals, and they got million viewers on Twitter and TikTok. And, I think it's at a really good place, but I think it could be even better, and I still think it could be more respected. And I I think just little by little, I think we are going to get there, but we have come a long, long way, but I want it even more. I want even more fans. I want even more people supporting. I want more people bringing their daughters to the game. And I know we can get there. It just takes time, but I think it's the NCAA keeps putting money into it. You're going to have people show up. So I think we're getting there, but we have a little bit longer to go.
Why do you think Dawn Staley has been so successful? What is it? Four Final Fours in the last 7 years, the only 2 national championships in South Carolina history. How do you think she did it?
I think through hard work. I think she started recruiting a lot of the top kids, and I think they wanted to play for her. She's a player's coach. People want to play for players coaches. So she's relatable. She went to Final Fours as a player. And she's one of those people you want to be close to. So I'm sure and another thing, like I watched her interview one day about, when recruits come on the campus, like she's honest, like she's not promising you playing time. She's not promising you 1,000,001 things. She's real, and people want to play for people that are real, and I think she comes off as very real. And, I think that's how she did, just being a good person, genuine person that kids wanted to play for. She made South Carolina the cool thing. And they won a little bit and people want to be a part of that. And then all the top kids started to come, and now that's the place to be. Everyone wants to go there. They're going to keep reloading every year. They got some of the class, they got 4 top 20 kids, that's, and she's able to manage all of that. She's able to manage egos. She had Cardosa there, who could have started and played 38 minutes for most teams in the country this year on the bench. And she had to manage that. And you got to manage the egos, and you got to manage the kids that don't play, but she showed love to them, and, I don't know behind the scenes what's going on, but you can tell that it's a mutual respect from everyone. And, people see that and people want to be a part of that. So I think that's how she did it.
Yeah. And a note to that, and a huge note and a great point, managing the fact that you might have a superstar sitting there on your bench and you got to find a way to balance it. And I always credit on the men's side of it, Tony Bennett, what he does at Virginia, that a guy will come in and have to wait 2 years and then he'll get his shot. And then you see him play and you're like, man, this guy's awesome. But they wait their turn and they find success. So, I mean, I think it's a beautiful thing to see that. I think Gino Auriemma, what he does with UConn and what he's done for so long, Pat Summitt, may she rest in peace. And I still can't even fathom, her not being here. But, at Tennessee and everything that she put forward growing up as a kid, I knew about Gino, I knew about Pat. But, now you see Dawn Staley, and you see Felisha Legette-Jack, and you see my girl Tammy Reese out of Rhode Island, my girl, Katie Kolinski, future head coach, in my opinion. So, but there's a lot to be said about the fact that there's so many great stories and there's so many beautiful things. And if you close yourself off from the women's game, how do you not want to know Pat Summitt, and her fight, and the fact that everything she was going through physically, she was there for these women. She was coaching at a time where she, could have been at home in bed, trying to get better. I mean, everything that I've seen people go through on the women's side of the game, and when it's equality, when it's fighting for different things, I mean, it is so much fun to see that Creighton made a move this year, right? And then everybody knows Gonzaga's men's team, but then the women's team's going out there doing their thing. Like I said, my one of my good friends, Gina Castelli, who's on the staff of UAlbany, went up against Louisville and, had the opportunity to experience that down in Kentucky and whatnot. I mean, there's, seeing UCF out there, I've covered UCF sports for a while. So, and they went up against UConn this year. It's just great to watch it and to know that Gino is always going to be relevant, but people are coming, right? People are coming for that. And people aren't necessarily going to UConn, right? Dawn Staley's going to steal some people. There's coaches that are going to start to, the Stanfords of the world and the South Carolinas of the world.
Notre Dame, UCLA, yep.
Yeah, they're going to start pulling, if they get just one, and then if they get one and it works out, they get two, then they get three. I mean, when you're building these powerhouses, it's not just UConn's game anymore. And I feel like that even more so, that it's taken forever for coverage to be here, but now that coverage is here, we could be talking about 4 teams, 6 teams, 8 teams, 7 teams, whatever, that could win a national championship in any given year. And that's going to create a lot of beauty in the game, that it's not just simply one overly dominant team. Now it's so much more, and it's so exciting. And Dawn Staley has this thing about her that can make you a fan of hers like that, like nothing. So
it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a fun ride, and it's exciting. So hopefully more people will jump on. I'll even call it the bandwagon right now. You can jump on the bandwagon. It's okay. You can switch over and join the fun. So it'll be fun to see where it kind of all goes.
I got to go to one final point here, and I got to mention him because this is a gentleman. I didn't know that he knew who I was. I'm just doing my job, and you always hope that like your reputation precedes you, and you always hope it's positive. And I'm always doing, the best that I can do. And I'm believing in God. I'm being honest, my morals and my values. I love people and connecting with people and bringing people together. And, I'm just going in the locker room and doing interviews and, for Syracuse men's basketball, and week in and week out over the years. And this guy comes up to me and he goes, "Hey, Dan, how you doing?" And I went, "Holy crap, somebody knows my name." And then he, again, "Hey, how's it?" And every time he sees me, it's like I'm an old friend. Ryan Cabiles, you mentioned him, director of strength and conditioning for men's basketball. And I'm so honored that I didn't care what Ryan's title was. I was just like blown away that somebody that I had not introduced myself to was like, "Hey, Dan, I see you." And I'm a big Ryan Cabiles fan. So I got to ask you just to speak a little bit further about your experience with him and why you think he's so special.
Yeah, I think it goes back to like the Dawn Staley point, like he can connect to the guys. He's trustworthy for the guys. So, when you have someone that you can trust to get you better, it's going to make you want to be in the weight room a little bit more. And he puts hours and hours and hours in with those guys in that weight room, from the summer to the during the season, preseason, postseason. Like he really gets those guys right. And, Coach Boeheim puts a trust in him that he knows what he's doing. And he's just remarkable. That the crew there, him and Brad Pike, 2 amazing people that are behind the scenes with Syracuse basketball, but they're so good at what they do. And like even for Ryan, for me, he's still a mentor. I call him all the time, and he'll talk me through situations or what I'm going through, and it could be career related or whatever the case may be, but he always picks up. And even last week I had texted him like, "Hey, I'm around Syracuse and I stopped by the Mello Center, and my daughter got to run around and she got to meet like Jesse Edwards and D Nick." And it was just really cool, to be able to do that. But it's just because Ryan is so, like it's family, like Syracuse basketball family, and Ryan's a big part of that family. And I know the guys trust him, and he got Buddy right throughout the years, and he got a lot of those guys right. And when the guys leave, they'll sign their sneaker and give it to him. So if you see outside his weight room, there's all these sneakers from Tyler Ennis, Jeremy Grant, Rakeem Christmas. So he's just a remarkable person.
Yeah, and it's great to connect with good people. And that's what it's all about. And in the world we live in, you and I get to meet a lot of people, which means we have the opportunity to meet a lot of good people and make a lot of cool connections. And it's very rewarding. So with that being said, for Katie Kolinski, myself, Dan Tortora, I want to thank you, Katie, as always, for being a part of this, to speak on so many different topics and to get us really ramped up and just excited about women's basketball, which I love. I love that. And so, I'm proud of you, proud to call you my friend. It's always an honor of mine to have that. So the next time that you find yourself in the 315, I better get a text message. That's all I'm saying.
Dan, you already know. And I do actually have to give one shout out to Coach Jack for getting the Syracuse job, because it's very well deserved. And she gave me my first opportunity outside of being a grad assistant. So she believed in me and she gave me the opportunity. So, I had to give her a shout out for that. And, I think it's really cool that she gets to coach back at Syracuse, our alma mater. And like I said, get your popcorn ready, because she's coming. So it's exciting.
Yeah, and really awesome. And I know she did that. So she's always meant something to me, because she gave you an opportunity with Buffalo, and now being in Syracuse is just a beautiful thing to see this happening for Felisha Legette-Jack to become the new head coach of women's basketball at Syracuse. And, to have that connection with you and that opportunity that was given to you out in Buffalo was awesome, was an awesome thing. And definitely made me appreciate Felisha before any of this happened in my hometown. So big ups to Felisha, and thank you for giving an opportunity to an incredible person. So always good to talk to you, Katie, and thank you so much.
Always.